What's up everybody, Noble Comics here with part 2 of the Goku v Superman video, and I'm making this part 2 because the video kind of blew up for me, and there was a lot of comments, a lot of people who agreed, a lot of people who disagreed, and I couldn't really respond to all the people who disagreed. There's just too many comments, so I thought I'd make a video kind of going over the most common disagreements with what I said. And little recap, in case you forgot, what I did say is, in the Superman v Goku debate, something that I think is often left out is Goku's superior combat speed, Goku's superior martial artist abilities, and the fact that Superman's feats typically don't scale the way that a lot of DC fans think they do. So, this out of the way, I want to jump right into it, not take up too much time, but I want to start with maybe not the most common thing I saw, but I want to address it outright, is people who say, like, this guy doesn't read comics, this guy's never read a Superman comic in his life, something along those lines. And I want to let you guys know, I am a Superman fan. I'm a bigger Superman fan than I am a Goku fan. I'm a huge comic guy. I write comics, I publish comics. Obviously, this is my arena, right? I know comics, okay? Trust me. The difference is that I actually read Superman comics. I don't just read one DC event and then go on Comic Vine and look at Superman Respect thread and find a bunch of one-off feats that Superman has created and then think that I know Superman without actually reading anything. Because I do read Superman comics, but I've read more than one, and I think that's the disconnect here, right? I've read the issue-to-issue Superman and actually have an understanding of his consistent character, right? Instead of just reading like events where Superman is just scaled to be as powerful as he needs to be in that event, whether it's scaled up or scaled down. So I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way and kind of segue into the next topic is we talk about Superman. What version of Superman are we talking about, right? Was a huge question because some people would bring up like Superman 1,000,000, Superman Prime, the Golden Superman, Injustice was brought up a few times, and it's like, obviously you cannot just narrow it down to just one version, right? You can't say we're just doing Rebirth Superman, just New 52, because the character is the same character for the most part throughout his 80-year life. But you can't just try and put all of them together because there are versions that are so vastly different from one another. Like, there's a version of Superman that's heavily depowered compared to, say, the Silver Age version, which is incredibly overpowered. I know technically current Superman is an amalgam of all the versions, but he's not really, right? Like, they can say that in the comics, but he's clearly not really because the power levels are so different, he couldn't be, right? So what version? You can't really nail it down to just one. You really have to take the consistent power levels, aspects, and characteristics, and just powers in general of the character, the consistent canon, pretty much, throughout that 80-year runtime, which is not easy, and I think that's where a lot of conflict comes from. But I'm going to try and navigate that a little bit here. And the first thing is talking about the feats of Superman that do and don't matter, pretty much, because a lot of the comments were people quoting feats at me, which was like the exact thing in the video I was telling people not to do. Don't bother. There's no point. Doesn't matter. But doesn't stop them from just being like, well, one time Superman lifted up the entire universe. One time Superman lifted a book with infinite pages, and one time he did this, and one time he did that. It's like, yeah, I bet Superman has done everything because he's been around for 80 years, right? There's been, like 500 something million issues sold of Superman? I mean, he's done a lot of stuff over the years. How much of that is consistent with his actual issue-to-issue character? Not a lot of those feats are, right? And I'll get more into that later. But you have to look at, is this consistent or is this plot-induced stupidity, right? Is this just Superman serving the plot because he's Superman and he has to? Which, yeah, a lot of that stuff is. And you have this weird aspect of the fan base that was at like in the same breath trying to give me some scientific numerical calculation of Superman's power, and then on the other hand completely throwing physics out the window, because they'd say something like, Superman lifted such and such tons, and his striking power is such and such, and he's got a reaction speed of 1 attosecond. 1 attosecond is how fast he can react. He's got that's so fast because his fight with Doomsday was like faster than the speed of light. It's like, okay, you can't try and give me some quantifiable 1 attosecond type reaction speed and then say that their fight, this separate fight, was faster than the speed of light. Because being faster, quote unquote, faster than the speed of light is not physically possible, right? So on one hand, you want me to adhere to this actual real world physical time frame, but then in the next, you want me to throw physics out the window. It's like, at least be a little consistent. So it's talking about some of those absurd feats, which I'd say don't matter, right? A lot of that you can throw out the window because it's not consistent with the base character, which base character is super strong, obviously. That's why this whole debate is happening. But some of these feats that people throw out, like he one-shot the source wall, and it's like, that's a multiversal feat. It's like, if Superman could punch with the force of a multiversal destructive power, how did he ever get beat up by Doomsday or something like that? And that's just a lot of like the respect thread problems, as people read a respect thread and think that that represents Superman's actual character. Which is why I wanted to bring up my own Superman disrespect thread, just to kind of prove a point here. So on one hand, you have Superman lifting the heavens and, one-shotting the source wall and 1 attosecond reaction speed. On the other hand, you have the Heroes in Crisis event where Harley Quinn gets a drop on Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman and fights them to a standstill. So 1 attosecond reaction speed, not fast enough to stop Harley Quinn. Or, a lot of people brought up Injustice, how about whenever he got his ass beat by Alfred the Butler, who had a super serum? You're telling me that this badass master martial artist Superman, because that's another thing I'll talk about later, got his ass beat by the Butler? Or how about whenever Superman got beat by Jonah Hex, a cowboy? Know what his powers are? Being a cowboy. Or how about whenever he got beat up by Batman? This 1 attosecond super fast reaction speed. He's multi-times faster than the speed of light, but gets punched in the face by a regular human moving at regular human speed. Or that time he got his ass beat by Venom in the crossover. Or how he gets shot by a kryptonite bullet. Even the 40s version of Superman was faster than a speeding bullet, yet he still gets shot. Or how about that time he was struggling to hold up a single helicopter that was falling out of the sky? And my point of this is not to say that Superman is not powerful. My point is to say certain writers can write the character in a way that is inconsistent with the core character. And I'm sure the Superman fans would happily say that all these instances I just brought up should not be counted towards the character, right? Like, they don't count. Those don't count, right? We shouldn't consider that his actual reaction speed and his actual power level. Of course not. I'm saying the same thing with those high feats that are also inconsistent with the core character. Another point that was often brought up was my analogy of, skill beating strength. And a lot of people would say, like, well, even the most skilled fighter on Earth would, get torn apart by a silverback gorilla, which is true. Fair point. Except I don't think that this is the reality of the Goku v Superman debate. I don't think Superman is that far ahead of Goku in terms of power. I mean, Goku is consistently shown to be universal, multiversal in power. I think that the disconnect may happen because of like how feats are favored and shown. In comics, a lot of time it's like a strength feat or a speed or something like that. Where with, Dragon Ball Z, it's usually some martial arts feat or like shooting a laser beam. And a lot of it comes from training, right? So it's like they train so hard that they're now at this power level, something like that. And the characters seem a lot more vulnerable, I'd guess, because they both take a lot more damage. And in Superman comics, typically, it's not quite the same. Where like in Dragon Ball Z, their clothes are getting torn off, they're getting scratched and bloody and da 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 da. And you don't see that quite the same, I don't think, in Superman comics. Plus, I think Superman may appear stronger, typically, because it is just throwing big, heavy punches back and forth. And so that might have the appearance of having way more weight and gravitas than, like, throwing 100 punches and kicks like they do in Dragon Ball Z. It may just come across that they're a lot less powerful, even though I think the power levels are a lot more comparable than maybe some people want to give it credit for. And this is all not to mention the fact that strength means different things for comics and anime, which is pretty self-evident. Like if someone describes a strong character in comics, that's not the same as saying a strong character in anime, and I think that's really because of how they rank their feats and what's important to their characters. So Superman's strength comes from lifting strength, right? That's what his feats are. It's him lifting heavy stuff. But when they say Goku is strong, or you talk about Goku's strength, it's really just more of a general power, right? So Goku doesn't have the lifting strength that Superman has, and Superman is no doubt physically stronger. But when it comes to power level, I don't think those two can be equated quite the same way, because Goku consistently multiversal, universal at the very least. Say in Super Saiyan Blue form, he can do Kaioken, instantly get 10 times stronger. And talking about reaction speed, the 1 attosecond reaction speed, well, to Goku's points, he's got his reaction speed feats of responding to hit, who's literally skipping through time. So, I just wanted to get that out of the way. Another big one that I kind of mentioned was the number of comments. This may have been number one, the number of comments of people who said, actually, Superman is a master martial artist. Superman knows such and such forms of Kryptonian martial arts, and he was trained by Batman. He's trained by Wonder Woman. Superman is a master martial artist, if you didn't know. And, of course, I know that. I know he was trained by Batman and Wildcat and yada yada. But here's the thing. Just because it says in the comic Superman is a master martial artist doesn't mean he actually is. Because if he's never once even shown a little bit that he's a master martial artist, then it doesn't matter what they say. Superman has never one time, ever in the comics, exhibited a skill in martial arts that's anywhere comparable to somebody like Goku. He's never had a fight like Goku. The fight that people imagine in their head of the Goku v Superman, of the 1 attosecond reaction speed master martial artist, that fight that they're imagining has never occurred ever in Superman's history. He has never fought like that. But on the Goku side, Goku would fight like he fights every time he fights. But in the Superman team, it's a delusion. You're deluding yourself to think that that's how he would act. Because this isn't just power set v power set. This is Superman versus Goku, character v character. And Superman has never behaved like that before. And if Superman was this master martial artist, I would say, why did he get killed by Doomsday? Right? Why didn't he use his Kryptonian taijutsu, Kryptonian taekwondo, whatever, and just subdue Doomsday? Why did he just trade blows back and forth like he does every single time he fights? I don't know if I've ever seen Superman throw a kick before. All he does is trade blows, and I saw some people say well, he just doesn't use his martial arts because he never has to. And it's look, I'm glad that's your personal headcanon for why this happens, but the truth is, you can't just say that someone has this ability and expect me to believe it when he's never used it. That's like if somebody said, a writer came out and said, yeah, Batman has the ability to fly. He's actually always had the ability to fly. Batman can fly. It's canon. But then every time Batman falls off a building, he uses his grappling hook and swings around. You wouldn't still look at me and say, oh yeah, Batman can fly. Like in a debate, you wouldn't say, oh yeah, Batman has power of flight and he can da-da-da. Just because it's been said but never shown. Okay? And if you pull up some screen cap of Superman blocking a punch and punching someone back, and being well, this is him using his martial arts. It's no. He doesn't fight like Goku fights. He doesn't fight like actual martial arts. And whenever he is in a combat sport, he loses. Like when he lost against Muhammad Ali. Who Muhammad Ali is a master boxer, but nowhere near a master martial artist, right? I don't think you would put him on the scale of Batman. You'd think someone trained by Batman and Wonder Woman and da-da-da could take out Muhammad Ali, but I guess not. Yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to address, a few of these main points. And I wanted to say to the comic book fans out there, when it comes to somebody like Goku, yeah, there's one timeline, right? It's easy. You see where he started, you see where he's at now. It's a lot easier to debate with that character because they are a lot more consistent, just kind of heading in this upward power level trend. But for Superman fans, you can't get sucked in to like just reporting on his top 5 feats that are totally inconsistent with the rest of the character and pretending like that's how the character is all the time. That's just not how this works. The actual consistent character, issue to issue character Superman, versus the issue to issue character of Goku, Goku obviously wins. Because I want to reiterate, the way that you right now are imagining in your head this fight going has never happened before, ever. The way you're imagining Superman fight, and the way that you argue in the comment section of how Superman would win the fight, he has never ever done even a single time. So maybe think about that and let me know why I'm wrong in the comments. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.